So this may be the second or the third time that you're doing a session with us, and we're super excited about the topic that you're going to cover this evening. I was sharing with you earlier that, you know, a lot of people are afraid of even bringing up the salary or negotiations. We pour a lot of energy into resumes and interviewing and job searching, but we sometimes get, afraid of the salary negotiation because it's going to mean that we're going to have to trust somebody, right? We're going to have to tell them what we're thinking. We're going to have to hear what it is that they want to offer. And the hope is that we end up with a good place in the middle. So I'm going to pass it on to you, Cory, and go for it. Let me just remind the audience, if you have questions, feel free to throw them in the chat, but we're not going to address them during the presentation because chances are by the time we get to the end of the presentation, we've covered everything that you wanted to ask. But at the end of the session, we'll look to see what we didn't cover, and then I can share those with Cory. So just throw your questions in the chat as we move forward. So Cory, you're on.
Well, for one, I want to say just thank you so much for inviting me back out. It's a pleasure to speak to the HBCU community and support anybody however I can. I'm Cory Steward, as you haven't figured out already. I'm a certified career coach. Feel free to follow me on Instagram or Twitter. I'm a pretty lively personality kind of person. And you can check out my website, careercoachcory.com. And this is a topic that I'm very excited to speak with you about tonight. So I'm going to be loud. I'm going to be outside the box because I feel like I have to be real. A lot of times people have conversations and will just be like, yeah, here's what you should do. Here's the best way. But I know what worked for me when I had mentorship. And so I want to pass that same thing to you because it's real. When you get an offer, you don't want to mess up the offer, but you want to maximize what you can get. You don't want to leave anything on the table, but it's a delicate.
Cory, you're muted. I think. It looks, yeah, there you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So it's my pleasure to be with you all tonight. Just thank you for having me out here to be with you, the HBCU Career Center. You ladies, it's always a pleasure to work with you all. And it's a topic that I'm excited about. I know when I was going through my issues and needed some help, I had good mentorship, but authenticity is very important. So I'm pretty lively. I'm out there, pretty high energy. So bear with me. I might be really loud. But you can always follow me on Instagram at Career Coach Cory or TikTok at Career Coach Cory and visit my website. And you can always call and shoot me an email afterwards. And I'll share my email again on the last slide if you have any questions. All right. So let's hop on in. So we're going to go through, of course, what is salary negotiation? So let's not make any assumptions on this. Why it's important to negotiate. The most important thing is preparation. With all that you do throughout this whole interview process, if you do everything right, you're going to get the results that you're looking for. And you need to know your number. I'll speak on that, give you some strategies on how to do it and some scripts. So, how in the world did you get this offer? You got this offer because you had a good LinkedIn profile, you had a great resume, or an amazing interview. But ideally, you did all three of these on point. So congratulations, you now have an offer. You went through the whole process. So what do you do now? Do you immediately accept? Do you negotiate? Do you do this by the phone? Do you do this by the email? There's always that like excitement of, I got an offer. What do I do next? So let's talk about what's not negotiation, because you've decided that you're going to negotiate this offer. So what we're not going to do is say, you know what, give me this particular salary or else. You're not going to say, you know what, thank you so much for this opportunity, but I just got a new car. Rent got increased. I'm trying to plan this trip to Cabo. I'm trying to go to Tulum with the friends, and I just got the job, so I'm gonna need some more money. You can't do that. That's not how we do it. And you cannot be aggressive like, hey, I need you to give me this so I can start on Monday. That's kind of what I need to make happen. You want me to start on Monday? Here's what I need to be. You can't strong arm them either. And don't tell them, hey, you know what? For this job, I know you guys talked about $80,000 to $90,000, but I want $130,000 for this position. That's not what negotiation is. Okay, so I really want to lay the groundwork to understand we shouldn't be navigating having these conversations with this particular tone, because everything you've already been doing in life is a negotiation, right? Whether you had with kids, they may not want to go to bed at 7 o'clock, right? They're attempting to negotiate. So you have to really be firm because you have the authority and you have the power, right? So, what is negotiation? It's a strategic discussion used to reach an agreement, compromise, or settle differences, right? So now they put their card on the table. This is a beautiful position. This is the transfer of power, because this whole courtship process of going through the first interview, the pre-screen, the second interview. Well, are you available in 2 more weeks to come back? Hey, we want you to do this panel interview. Everybody finally got on the same page and got their stuff together to make you an offer. And they put it in writing. They'll put it. Sometimes the recruiter will call you to make you the offer that way, or send you an email. And now it's time to negotiate. So let's talk about why, because a lot of people don't negotiate and everybody's so scared. Everybody's so worried about, well, let me get my resume on point, and then they try to wing the negotiation process. So some people may be hesitant to do it, but I have to reiterate why you should. For one, we never want that moment where you're into the job 8 months, you're cool with Becky over there, you and Becky kicking it at the little happy hour sponsored function event, and then you realize that she says, yeah, when they offered me 80, I negotiated a little bit more, and they were able to give me 86. If you realize in that moment that she's getting paid more than you when she probably does less than you're going to be very disappointed in yourself. So never put yourself in a position to where you have no regret. You at least need to try. You need to make an attempt. It's the company's job to lowball you, right? It's in their best interest to save the company money. What's the purpose of any company or business? To generate profit, revenue, the whole nine. And the biggest expense for companies, if you didn't know, is payroll. So if they can manage their payroll and their staff and their salaries, that's the best way to save money. So the best way to do that is on the front end, just like the best time to negotiate is on the front end. Don't try to wait till 3 months later or 6 months later, like, hey, now that I've been in a role or I've been here a year, now I want more money. You're going to get your highest likelihood and your biggest increase at the beginning before you even start. That's why you should negotiate. You'll be an asset. Do not expect that recruiter, no matter how great, the conversation or the flow goes, do not think that they're going to always have your best interest in mind. They may be wonderful and down to earth, but they still are employed by the employer. So don't just believe everything. Make an attempt. Always be an advocate for yourself, because it's nobody else's job, right? Another thing I want to make sure I mention a couple times is that we've kind of been going through this cultural shift over the past 5 to 10 years, because it's been a well-known fact, and still is a well-known fact, that a lot of ladies do not negotiate and they get paid less than men for various reasons. So there's different types of negotiation styles. So I want to ask everybody, between all these, there's competitive, right? Here's what I want to see. If I do X, Y, Z, if I hit this particular target number, here's what we can make happen. You're almost trying to win something, right? Or we can collaborate. Hey, how are we going to solve this issue together? Then there's avoidant, right? Sometimes you might just want to shy away and not negotiate because you don't want any issues or anything to pop up. So you're going to be a lot more accommodating, right? So that leads you to be more accommodating, chilling out. Like, okay, if you're the boss, if this is what you say can happen, here's what we can make. Here's what's going to be the solution to that. The best negotiation style and technique I need you to first take note of is a win-win. Because if they're like, hey, we're not going to pay you any more money, but we're only going to give you 2 weeks, but you really know you're going to be working past 40 hours. You're accepting the job because you need a position right now, but you really lost inside. It's a win for them, but a loss for you. And if you get, 130,000 when they really should only be paying you 100,000, that's a win loss with them losing on the end, right? So they may have some type of remorse and they may have to make an adjustment on the end. The best negotiation style is where you compromise and it's a win-win for the both of you, right? Nobody loses. And how you do that is you research and understand their position. That's anything in life. You never want to say my way or the highway, or, I want to go here to eat. You always say, you know what? Hey, how about we do this on Friday and we do this on Saturday? Because both parties could reach an agreement to where they win. All right. So have that attitude and have that mindset when you want to start the negotiation process. So there, I could talk all night about women and the salary, the pay gap that does exist, how I want my ladies to negotiate more and all these stats. The beautiful thing is this is changing. Women are negotiating a little bit more, but there's still a gap that needs to be made up, right? And it even gets worse depending on certain ethnicities that you could be a part of. And oftentimes, ladies are very more caring, right? So they don't want to seem ungrateful, right? So they just offer me a job. I'm not going to be ungrateful and spit in their face and say, you know what, thank you, but you should pay me this, right? And we're all excited and we just say yes. And then once the excitement comes down, we realize how hard the task is and how they want you to stay overnight or how you have to pay for parking. It's a different story. Like, man, I should have negotiated more. All right. So with all that being said, don't be scared, right? Shout out to anybody who knows what movie this is from. So again, it's your job to be your own advocate. Make sure you negotiate. I know it could be a scary thing to try at first, but the earlier you start the negotiation process, if you're fresh out of college, that same pay increase is going to follow you because I'm pretty sure you're not going to want to start a job at $60,000 and take the next job and take a step down in pay. Nope. You're going to go from that 60,000 to the 74,000, from the 74,000 to the 90,000, and so on and so forth. So the sooner that you take ownership and don't be afraid to negotiate and it starts to pay off, you're going to reap the benefits for your whole career that you're working for somebody. So it's an amazing thing. Sometimes there's this misconception that they don't want me to negotiate. They don't welcome negotiating. Of course, they don't want to pay you extra money, but you know what recruiters do know is that they negotiate with people every day. And they will respect you more for taking a little bit of accountability and some pushback saying, hey, I've really had a chance to really evaluate the role. I see this is what you're offering, but I was really looking to be at this particular number. How can we make something work? They will respect you more, right? Do not think that they're going to pull an offer. There's nothing wrong with asking for more. So if that's something that's been on your mind, that if you negotiate and you can immediately accept the offer right away, that they're going to take it away, it's okay. The worst thing at the end of the day they can do is say no, like anything in life. Sometimes when I go to Chipotle, hey, can I get an extra scoop? And you know what? Sometimes they give me an extra scoop without hitting you with I'm going to have to charge you extra for that. But it never hurts to ask. So HR is fine. The recruiting industry is well aware of this. Managers know this. It's okay. And a lot of times they expect you to. So success is where preparation meets opportunity. If you really want to get to that bag, you got to put in the work. You have to, just like you have to plan for that interview and prepare for it, you need to be planning and preparing for this part of the process. And it starts at the very beginning of that first phone call when they call you for the pre-screen, or when they shoot you an email back from your resume that you submitted for the job opening. This is probably the most important piece of the whole process, because if you don't prepare, you plan on failing, right? How can you prepare? There's a couple different resources. Salary.com, Glassdoor, PayScale. These are not the end all be all. These are reference points. I repeat, these are reference points that you should use. Because if they hit you with the 70, you're already going to know what type of range you should be in for that job. You need to consider the location, because you're going to get paid different if you're in Alabama versus California. So it may be the same title, but there may be a discrepancy in what the salary is if you live in Alabama versus California. You might have a larger responsibility that deems you should be paid more. You might be managing more people. You might have more accounts that you're over. So long as you're prepared for when that comes up in the conversation, that you can justify what your request is really about because you did your homework, right? You prepared. And what you can do if you play it right when you get that first phone call, you need to ask them, okay, what's the starting salary for this role? Get them to drop a number first. Whoever says the first number loses. They're going to, hey, so what are you looking for? You better sidestep and tiptoe around that question as much as you can. If they force you to after 3 attempts, you might have to give them a number, and you're still going to be prepared because you did your what? You did your research. So just to go in a little bit deeper on that. So how you help yourself in the negotiation process is at some point they're going to ask you, what salary are you looking for? What was your previous employer paying you, right? So what you do is, if you were making 60,000 at your previous job, you just say, you know what, I'm currently making $70,000, right? That's right, I said it. You need to inflate that cost. So you build the win within, right? And they're going to mark it. So what you do, they're going to immediately tell you if that's an acceptable form of payment, or where you're a little too high, or you know what, we're willing to offer you something higher, right? So you get to gauge them right there at the beginning of the process. So if you're making 60, say, I'm making somewhere around 70,000 right now. Is that in line with the position is paying for? And you only mention that number again if they're really hard pressing you. Please don't give in on the first or the second try. At least give it 3 strong attempts on pushback before you drop a number. But if you must drop a number, make sure you add $10,000 to it so you build the win within, right? Because we're not looking for another job to pay us the same amount of money unless we're under a lot of stress, right? That wouldn't make sense. Traditionally, we want a step up in pay and a step up in responsibility and a new challenge and a better environment that we can really appreciate. All right. And a solid tip to do in that initial phone call and interview process is get the benefits guide. So say, wow, I'm really interested in this company, and I appreciate being able to move on to the next step. Could you send me the benefits guide for my reference? Because what's going to happen is, if you don't do this work on the front end, what they'll do is, say the company offers you 4 weeks paid vacation, right? So what they'll do for the counter, hey, we can't pay you this, we can't do this and that, but we're going to give you 4 weeks vacation. But because you've already had the benefits guide, they didn't do anything for you. They're just trying to make you feel special. That's a standard benefit that the company gives, is 4 weeks benefits. And you politely say, oh, okay, I understand that's a standard benefit that you have. I can accept the role if you can add an additional 2 weeks vacation to that. If we can do 6 weeks, I'll be happy to sign on a dotted line. But because you didn't fact find in the beginning and you didn't ask for these things, you've kind of set yourself up to be taken advantage of, because you don't really know what's a legit offer until you get in the position of what all their benefits are. So there's nothing wrong with asking that in a politeful way. If you see some interest and you're having a good conversation and she agrees or he agrees to move you to the next step in the interview process, you simply say, wow, so I can adequately prepare for the next step in the interview process, could you please send the benefits guide to me as well? Because it's part of the preparation process. Here's another resource. So a lot of times we forget that ZipRecruiter offers some salary information as well, in addition to LinkedIn, like I kind of mentioned earlier. But but I really want to utilize more of the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Just go to bls.gov. These will give solid ranges. What I've did for a counter offer before is these aren't the end all be all, as I mentioned. But if I can find an amount that has my same job title in the same state, but it pays more, I'm using that as leverage. They're not going to go do all their research to really counter you. They're just going to say, you know what, this person did their homework. If we can match that price, they're going to match it. That's the bottom line. But just asking for something without having anything to support where this is coming from, you decrease the likelihood of you getting the end result that you want, right? Show that you care. You're not just making up a number, but here's where I'm getting it from. Every company should have a compensation manager. And if they're really on point, every year they're evaluating, are they where the market is at? And a lot of companies are behind, right? So it's your job to keep them in check and hold them accountable. And sometimes you may not always get that dollar amount that you're looking for, but they should be able to give you something. And once you really go through the interview process and you build a relationship, you'll know if you're really getting the top dollar. At some point, you do have to cave in, but you're not going to know if they're giving you the right dollar if you didn't do any type of research. Another idea that you can use is some states have what they call paid transparency, right? So this means that from the time that you apply for the job, you know the minimum pay that you're going to be getting. So you have something to depend on throughout the process to take the guesswork out of the way. So if it's the same company, say you're in Oklahoma and it's the same company that's in California, Colorado, the pay shouldn't be that big of a difference, but you can use that as a reference point, right? Do not expect it to be the exact same, but this at least gives you a general idea on what the salary is for that role across the company. And the more data points that you have, the better intel creates you're going to get the result that you're looking for in getting that higher pay increase. So definitely take advantage and make note of this. Sometimes they have different, depending on which state that you're in, the state that you're in, you want to make sure you do your research on what types of pay things are shared. Maybe it's just this particular county. Is it statewide? And this kind of goes into some of the additional details on what they can't do. They may not, sometimes it's illegal. So what'd you make at your last job? That's illegal in certain states. So you need to make sure that you know your rights, or you can contact a labor lawyer for some additional questions, some help with this if you find yourself caught up in a situation. But I say all this to say, this is not the end of be all of everything, just a good reference point for you to utilize to help you with your case. So the power of negotiation. So let's run some numbers here. So say you're making $60,000 and you do a 7% increase. So that puts you at $64,200, right? So you just asked for extra $4,200, right? $4,200. So over the course of 3 years, you made yourself $12,600. And this is a low number. To ask for an extra 7%, I just want us to be modest. I just want us to be real. That's just having them come up an extra $4,000, right? And some change. But if you stay at that job for 3 years, that really adds up. Right. So you could pay something off with that, right? That's an extra $12,000 that you got in your pocket, all because you believed in yourself and you were confident enough to ask for more money and to negotiate. In my career coaching practice, one of my main principles that I go by, is be bold, stand out, get hired, right? It's get career confidence. If you don't have confidence throughout the whole interview process, especially the negotiation process, you're not going to do your best. So it's important that you ask. I'll be going off. So we got 10% more, right? You're making $75,000 and you're asking for 10% more. That's $7,500. Shoot. So if you work there for 3 years, that's $22,500. And guess what? They base your merit increase off what your current salary increase is. And then your 401k contribution is going to be based off your salary as well. So you might just negotiate some extra money that you can contribute to your 401k company match. And when you switch jobs, guess what? You're gonna know, hey, I'm currently making $82,000. So for my next job, I'm gonna rinse and repeat and do the same thing. And it follows you throughout your whole career. So if I have some young recent college grads, you may be the most nervous to do this, but the earlier you start this, imagine you work for the next 20, 30 years, but you started out higher than most people, right? So you're going to have more income that you're going to take on, right? So that leads you to have more money in your pocket. So now we finally got to that number. You need to know 3 numbers, right? Everybody has different strategies. I want you to know 3 numbers, right? We need to know that minimum acceptable number. What is that number? Everybody should be under Dave Ramsey, right? You should know how much it takes to pay these bills, what I need, how much money I need to have fun. If I want to go out once or twice a week, figure that number out, but be modest about it, right? I don't want you eating ramen noodles, but we need to have a reasonable, minimal, acceptable number that we're going to agree to this deal on, right? If they offer you this, you've already have it in your head. I'm willing to accept this at the minimum, right? Then there's the target number, right? To me, I personally don't want to see you all leave a job unless you're getting paid 12 to 20% more than your current pay, right? There's a lot of factors that go into it. If somebody getting on your nerves, you know, you're about to get fired, we might need to take that 7% pay increase. We might even need to keep the same pay that we getting just to get out of Dodge, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But when you got time to sit back and you being proactive, when we taking those phone calls, we need to be aggressive in that target number that we want, right? Then there's what I call the turn up number, right? We always got to shoot because I'm not thirsty for a job. So you expect me to leave my good manager. You expect me to leave my nice commute to my job and things are flowing well. I'm doing great. My customers love me, but you expect me to leave. So you're going to have to give me at least 25% or higher, right? So when you're having these negotiations, it depends on your position and where you're at with your job currently, right? And your satisfaction. So if you're very satisfied with your job, we might tell these recruiters, this is my turn up number, right? If you want me to quit and put in my 2 weeks notice, here's what I need, right? Nothing wrong with that, right? I don't want you to be outrageous, but we're going to need to make it worth a while with this number, okay? And oftentimes when you ask for that number, you'll still fall in a decent range to have a 15 to 20% pay increase. That's a great amount to leave your current job. And there's nothing wrong with falling somewhere in between that minimum and that turn up number. What I say is if you shoot for the moon, you at least gonna fall amongst the stars. So let's talk about the rules of engagement. When you're negotiating, there's a certain way that you got to finesse this, right? As I call it, navigating the corporate waters with the sharks in it. The number one rule with any negotiation is you got to be prepared to walk away. I don't know if y'all have ever traveled outside the country, but sometimes I'm chilling on the beach. They always coming up to me with these little trinkets, and I like to take shot glasses and bring back every time I go out of the country. And so they might be like, hey, $10. I'm like, $10? I'll give you 3. And they say, for you, my friend, I'm gonna do 5. I'm say, nah, and then I'll bring out cash and say, all I have is $3. Then they say, okay. Because you know what? I was prepared to walk away and it worked out, right? It's not always gonna work like that, but you need to know what your self-worth is, and you need to know what your numbers are. And once you know your numbers, it makes it easy to walk away. If somebody gives me less than my minimum acceptable number, we don't even have to talk no more. Thank you so much for the opportunity. For me to take this role, I at least need $60,000. And then they can't go past 54,000. End of the negotiation. Please, if things change later on down the line, I'd love to be the top candidate on your list to a call back once we can get to the number that I'm looking for. Know that they've been dating and courting you this whole process, and once they make an official offer, you now got the power. You got the juice, right? So just make sure that you're ready to own and walk in that power and you don't abuse it, because they've put their cards on the table and said, we want to hire you. They didn't make an offer to anybody else. Most of the time, you're going to be their first pick. So you want to make sure you reiterate, remind them of their skills and why they chose you. Once that offer comes through, um, just take your time, right? You don't have to immediately say yes. It's very, very normal and fair for you to say, wow, can I get to you in 24 to 48 hours? So what you're going to do in that time is you're going to draft up how your negotiation game is going to be, right? If you're ready to handle it right there on the spot, start it. But what a good recruiter is going to do is before she runs that paperwork and types in a number, she's going to want to get a verbal commitment from you. Wow, we'd like to officially extend an offer to you. And, here's going to be the pay. Here's going to be your salary. All this is going to be over the phone. You say, oh my goodness, I'm so excited for this. Thank you so much for the offer. I look forward to working with you all. However, the price that you mentioned, the salary that you mentioned was a little below what I was expecting, right? You can immediately start the negotiation piece there, or you cannot say anything and let them send you the email and start that way. But lead with graciousness. That is key, right? Saying the wrong thing or reflecting the wrong attitude could sabotage the deal. But it's okay to welcome that conversation and always let them know that you're willing to compromise. I'm really going to drive that home because I need you to do it. The key to this is just being gracious, being polite, say it with a smile, and you'll be fine, right? And do not say a number first. So everybody has their own style, right? You can just, here's my number. I'm not trying to play any games, right? But again, that if you just expose yourself to just that one number and they can't do it, you got to be prepared to own it, right? If you're gonna be the boss, you got to be the boss all the way through. Oh well, we can't do 90,000. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I'm out. um, Ask them, hey, could you share a little bit more what's a realistic range in which I'll be willing to do for the right candidate, right? Sometimes they try to ask you, well, what is it that you're really looking for? Well, I was really expecting a fair and equitable offer for you to provide, right? Though a lot of times they try to do that in the weeding process at the beginning. Just put it back on them and get them to see what number they're going to come back with, right? Um, One thing you can do is drop the anchor. So what they mean by that is you say, you know what, well, I was really looking for, somewhere between 100 and 110,000, when you know good and well that they're probably not going to go past 95. But at least because you dropped the anchor, you started much on the higher end. So then they can counter that and you can say, you know what, thank you so much. I'm willing to compromise, right? You have to really be skilled and listen throughout the whole interview process so that you don't dismiss yourself from the negotiation process, right? That's why there's so much preparation that needs to go into this because it can really play out in a couple of different ways. Because they might be highly skilled at this and they may have a rebuttal for everything that you say. But because you've skilled in your practice at this as well, y'all will both respect each other and come to a win-win agreement, right? But you always show your interest in the role and that you're willing to compromise. I'm not in love with $110,000, but I was really expecting us to get to about 110,000 or somewhere along in that. If we can get close to that, I'd be happy to sign on the dotted line. All right. Again, always be grateful and show enthusiasm and appreciation. All right. We are happy. We are so happy. And if they really know you want it and you're not just playing games, just being an arrogant person, just trying to get more money, you really envision a future with this company long term. And after really just evaluating my personal needs for my households, here's really where I need to be at. If we can get close to that, I'd be happy to sign on the dotted line. Once you're on the phone and you do get that offer, hey, send everything over to me by email. And I want to just make sure I carefully review the details. And I always just be like, oh, I just need to talk to my spouse about this, and I'll be happy to get back to you. And just want to sleep on it a little bit. That's completely fine and normal to do. I feel like they would almost not respect you if you accepted the job immediately, unless they just give you some huge pie in the sky number. And I also want to throw in, if they do give you the number that you want, still ask for more money, right? If they come with their initial offer, don't get me wrong. If they say thank you and they extend that initial offer and it's the number that you really want, it's your turn up number, still ask for more. Always negotiate. There's always some room on the table for negotiation. You just always want to double check. So let them know, hey, I'll respond within 48 hours. Will that be okay? What I always like to do is there's certain scenarios that have come up, right? Say I'm waiting to hear back from another job and today is Thursday. Don't be so thirsty to answer the phone, right? Wait till the end of business on Friday to call them back. Now you just gave yourself extra time for the other company to get their stuff together, right? So that's the little tactics that you can do. Let the phone go to voicemail, and you'll hear from the energy and voice inflection in their phone if they're gonna give you that offer. Or hey, they'll send you an email. Sorry, I missed you. Hey, I have some exciting news. Please give me a call as soon as you get this. And since you're working, you can just be like, oh, I was busy at work all day. I had a deadline or something to meet. So I'm just now seeing your email and getting a chance to check my voicemail. Just hit them with the late night Sunday email and you'll be good. Stay positive, stay gracious. Make sure you always show your appreciation. Okay, so want to make sure I bring this home. When you're having certain conversations, when you're seeing an email on your counter, you always want to make sure you're coming from a collaborative standpoint. What can we do here, right? Hey, I was looking for more money. That's really not the number I had in line. I'm really not happy with the amount of days I have to come in back and forth to work. What can we do here to really reach a better compromise? Come to the table with an alternative that meets their needs and yours. Say, you know what? I understand you want me to go in 3 days out of the week. What if I'd be willing to come in a day, 2 days out of the week, and then we can just call it a day, and we don't have to worry about anything on the base salary, right? Show that you care and you're willing to work with them. Because if anybody's willing to work with me, I'm willing to work with them, right? I can't always have it my way if it's supposed to be a mutual agreement between two people, right? That's the art of negotiation. Because if you're not showing that you're willing to compromise or create an alternative, that pushes them to only take what you want and they don't get anything out of the deal. And that's really creates a little bit of animosity, and that creates some unease, and they may back out of the deal feeling like they have to sacrifice or give up too much so you could just win. And remember, the goal of any negotiation is a win-win for both parties involved. As I said earlier, use this language. I am so grateful for this offer and excited for the opportunity to work with you all, right? Thank you so much for this amazing opportunity. You're upbeat, you're positive. So that means that they do like this position. Maybe it's just a small thing that this salary that they're telling me about, that's really all it is. They're not just playing games, because if they go back and get more money, they don't want you to go back and come back and ask for something else. Get it all out here on the front end, so they don't have to keep going back and forth, because the more they have to go back and forth, the least likely you're going to get the outcome that you seek. Please don't just be so in love with salary only money that you forget about the other things that companies can offer, right? Something as small as a job title. If you're going to be, say, customer service, but maybe you're a senior account manager, that senior account manager role pays more for your next future opportunities, right? So that's something that you should also consider negotiating. Maybe they pay childcare, right? You know how much childcare is and paying for daycare is? If they're willing to put something on it, maybe you shift your focus from that salary and think about how much they're saving you on a weekly basis of childcare for 5 days out of the week, right? If they do these gyms, Lifetime Fitness, to have the spa and all that, that's $100 a month. If they're willing to give you money back, that's $100 a month. Okay, cool. So that's $1,200. That's something to think about. Every bit counts. Profit sharing is up for negotiation. A sign-on bonus. Me, I have a sales background. So right now I know for a fact I'm going to make commission, but I don't get that commission until January. So these companies, you want me to leave within the next 30 days. You don't want me to forfeit my commission. I'm not about to do that. So for me to even think about this job, you're going to have to tell me that a sign-on bonus is on the table, right? So that way I get my commission that I was going to make already currently with my job, and I get something extra. So that puts me at peace. It makes me feel good. And that's a fair request because they're expecting me to leave my current job. And in that certain roles, you get bonuses and commissions for hitting certain targets. Another thing to note is I had a client. He wasn't really worried about pay. You know what he was worried about? He was going through a custody battle, and part of the agreement is that he had to pick his kid up 2 days out of the week. And you know what time school lets out? Daycare lets out? 3 o'clock. All right. So he wanted to see if he could negotiate. Hey, part of my agreement is on Tuesdays and Thursdays, my request, what I'm negotiating is can I leave early? And I'd be willing to work later on those other days. But on these 2 days, I need to be able to pick up my child from daycare. You know what? The manager said, no problem, completely understand, no big deal. So let's think beyond just getting this bag and this whole money culture, because it's about quality of life, right? And sometimes we forget that. You're making this income and you're going to work so you can provide for yourself and have a better, healthy quality of life. So all these things contribute to that. So please keep that in mind when you're doing the negotiation process. And since you asked for the benefits guide, right, you know where you're at with a lot of the benefits that the company's already willing to offer. So you can ask for extra. So one question somebody might have is, Cory, do I do this negotiation through the phone or do I do it by email? You need to be skilled to do both, right? I'm a little bit more experienced with it, so I'm comfortable with kind of laying out the groundwork over the phone and then sending my request by email. So it's easy for them to forward over to their hiring authorities to get approval. This is what I want. I want to lay it all on the table in a nice, friendly, concise way. I want, that's what I want to make happen for myself. Some people, you want to do it all through email. Completely fine. You get time to think about it, send it to a friend, send it to a coach to review. Hey, is this the right language I should be using? Is this too much? Completely fine to do, right? And shout out to all the Android users, by the way. So I want to give you all some scripts to utilize. Here's what you want to do. You had a conversation on the phone, followed up with what you want in an email, just so it's clear. Hello and happy Friday. Throw a little flavor in there. It's Friday. Another tip, people are in better moods on Fridays. So that's the day I like to negotiate personally, because it's Friday. If you're trying to fill a position, you don't want that position to carry over into the weekend. It feels good to know, you know what? I've been working on this position for the past 2 to 3 months, and I finally got it filled. It's Friday. I'm going to go celebrate that I got this person to sign the offer today, and we're good to go. So if you can do that, that's what you want to do. Thank you so much for the offer, and I'm excited about the opportunity to work. So you lead with your excitement. You're on something positive. This is not negative. I just want to know, hey, is there some wiggle room on the salary? Question mark. They can say, heck yes or heck no, or let's see what we can do, right? I would love to see this come up to 86,400. So I dropped the number at this point because remember, they already gave me a number. I just didn't like the number they gave me. And it's been statistically proven that if you do an odd number like 86,400, what do most people do? Can I just get 85,000? This shows that you really did some planning and some preparation. You're thought out. You're not just making this number out. You took a look at your budget and you knew what your minimum number was and what target salary you would really like to be at. And then let them know, hey, I got experience. You said y'all liked my experience in all the interviews. You said that you love that I had this particular certification and it's rare for people to get that. So I'm just reminding you, this is why I'm asking for money. And in addition to more money, I currently have 4 weeks of PTO. Could you add 7 more days of PTO? And if we come to this agreement, I'll sign the offer letter today. No more games. There's not going to be the email going back and forth. So now they know exactly what my request is and what I'm asking. It's clear. And then they can give me a clear no, yes, or here's the compromise or the agreement of what we're willing to do. And of course, it's simple. Hey, thanks a lot for your consideration. So you're going to assume, little sales tactic, they're going to consider your offer. And again, in with that excitement. I look forward to hearing from you soon. Here's another way to kind of do it. You're pretty much saying the same thing, just kind of wording it a little bit differently, but you're letting them know that I'm willing to take ownership of this position and I look forward to that opportunity, right? I envision myself doing well in XYZ. I do have some things that I just want to let you know. So because you did your market research, what I did one time is I attached, it said like, let's say accounting manager. So you attach the accounting managing role, and here's the salary that pay scale says. So I was thinking I was going to get paid that with you all, right? So again, I'm doing some type of homework and not just making up a number. This just helps justify that, hey, you know what? They did a little bit of homework. Maybe we should go ahead and cave in and give them what they want. And again, I already have 3 weeks. Can I get at least 3 days? Because the truth is, I probably have 2 weeks. So you're asking them to give you an additional week in 3 days. So to match that and give you some. Just another example of building the win within, right? If you can make this happen, I can happily accept and sign today. Positive, positive, positive. That's what I mean. Positive over the phone. I was positive after the interview process, and I'm going to be positive in this email through the negotiation process. Thank you so much. And let me know if you have any questions or concerns. Let them know, hey, if you got a concern, let's talk about it. And again, I look forward to hearing from you soon. And of course, send a screenshot. I do a screenshot in the body of the email so they can easily see it. And I attached it. These are my receipts. All right. Has anybody ever been in a situationship before? Anybody? Right? Well, you might be in a career situationship if you play your cards right. What if I'm interviewing with a job, I got the offer, and then I get another offer from somebody else at the same time? What do I do? This is a great technique to utilize, especially if you got receipts. You talk to that company and you say, hey, where are we at? Can we come to this type of agreement? I just want to let you know, I do have another offer on the table. Pretty much in a nice, polite way. Stop playing games, because if you don't give me your best offer, I'm going to leave. You are my ideal and my preferred choice, but I want to make sure I don't say yes to them, because I really want to be with you, but I really want us to reach an agreement when it comes to the salary or the extra vacation time. So now you got options that you can use as leverage to create the outcome that you're looking for. So that's good. So what happens more oftentimes than not is you're already in play with a job, but they're slow playing. You're already on the third interview with one, and you just got past the first interview with the other one. So if they keep that same cadence, because a lot of companies move slow as snails, and some companies are on it. Boom, boom, boom. This week, here's who you're meeting with. Are you available this Thursday or Friday? We want to move you forward. We're trying to get this role filled by September 1st. So you're going to feel that sense of urgency and that they're moving fast. So there's tactics that you can do to slow their pace down if you really want to give time for the other ones, but you can't hold them off forever. So you just let them know this is where you're at with my other employer or potential employer, and I really feel like they're going to make me an offer today. If you really have some serious interest, please let me know if we can speed this process up a little bit more, because I really want to be with your company, but I also appreciate the other company willing to move a little bit more efficiently through the process. Another situationship. Say you do accept, and then the company finally gets their stuff together, and 2-3 weeks later, they decide to make you an offer and you want to leave. Here's what you do. When they ask you, how soon can you start? I would let them know, push it out 2 or 3 weeks. just to give a little bit of cushion room, because it's easier to rescind, decline that offer before you start. And that's a good way to where, they'll call back their other guys, the other candidates, and kind of start the process all over again. But at least you didn't do it the day of. You want to be mindful in this because it's never good on their end. It always makes them feel some type of way. You do not want to burn bridges. So you need to make sure you really think again long term on what's the best move for you. But I will still say it's okay to quit as long as you don't start. If you start a job and then quit, that's like a different level of disappointment, right? So that's how you would handle those situationships, from my opinion, if and when they do come up. And that's a beautiful thing. And if you're really on your game, these type of situationships should be coming up, because we should be interviewing nonstop throughout the whole process until we have an offer in hand. Not, oh, we feel good about this job, or I think there's going to be an offer, but we actually have one in hand. And then you got more options. So for the takeaways that I want you to walk away when you go to bed is, know the value and power that you should always negotiate, right? No matter how small or big, we negotiate in all aspects of our lives on a daily basis. Sometimes we just don't realize it. Don't be lazy. Do the research and the homework. If you don't properly plan well, it may not go in your favor, right? Know your numbers, just your minimum number, the reasonable number you're willing to accept, and don't forget that turn up number. Once you know that, before you even start the process, you feel confident. What I do is I always write it down ahead of time. So when I'm having that phone call with that recruiter, I know where I need to be at, so then I can pivot. And you can even write down potential outcomes like yes, no, here's what I say. Make a matrix for yourself so it takes the emotion out of it, so you can make a process-oriented decision. Show gratitude and appreciation. There's nothing wrong if you get somebody the wrong gift, right? Oh, you know what? Thank you so much. But I don't wear a small, I wear a medium. That's all you wear. But if you just say, hey, you know what? I don't wear this, the wrong size. It creates a different experience for the other person, right? It's received differently. But if you show with gratitude and appreciation, you're going to be fine. And the number one rule in any form of negotiation is you better be ready to walk away. Are you willing to walk away? So the more you know your numbers and you kind of go through this process, it really helps educate you on what your walk away number is. And some companies aren't willing to budge. There's a lot of candidates out there, but there's not many of yous. There's only one Cory Steward, right? There's only one Get Career Confidence. So if I feel like I carried myself well throughout the interview process and I feel like this is what I'm worth, I'm going to stick to it. You need to be within reason. That's why I'm having you research. Don't be coming up with these pie out of the sky numbers thinking, oh, I need to be getting these six figures when you don't even have any experience, right? But be ready to walk away and know what your number is. So with that, I want to let you know, if you need help with your resume, if you need help with your LinkedIn, if you need help with your confidence and your interview skills, if you're entitled to a 10% discount on any package. If you just go to my website, getcareerconfidence.com, see if there's a package that you like, or if you want to work with me with something else, feel free to shoot me an email at team@getcareerconfidence. You can't see it because I got that IG logo over there, but you can follow me again on Instagram and TikTok at Career Coach Cory. So I want to be a resource for you. Even if it's at no cost, I can always find 10 minutes to help you out because I want you to be better. And I want to bring some type of value to you and support you throughout your career journey. So feel free. You can always stay in touch. And thank you so much for tuning in, and look forward to working with you all. And now we can.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Cory. You gave so much good information. I just want to remind everybody who attended that yes, we are going to be sharing see, you're getting lots of love from the audience, Cory. We're going to be sharing your presentation with everybody who registered. So especially those scripts that you shared at the end, people need to use those word for word for word. And I think one person said they actually was going to be working on a negotiation starting tomorrow for a new job. So, and I'm saying, yeah, use these scripts that Cory is giving us. So I really, really appreciate that. There were a couple of questions that came up. You answered a lot, but one question in particular, what if you started off too low? How do you bounce back?
Okay. Started off with the negotiation process or started off at that job and you went too low?
Started
So,
off with the negotiation process.
okay. You just simply own it. Say, you know what? After having some time to think about this, I really shared a number that was really a little bit low, what I feel my market value is. That number that I would be much more accepting to me would be XYZ. Just keep it
Awesome.
real, fall on the sword, throw the new number out. It is what it is.
Awesome. Someone asked about negotiation while employed, if you would be willing to give up salary for stocks.
While you're employed.
Yes.
A good,
What are your
a good,
thoughts on that?
yeah. So a good time to do that is during the merit increase, but you can always have a conversation with your manager about, hey, you know what? I really like where the stock is at, and I really value the long-term stock investment, and I wouldn't mind sacrificing some salary so I can get some more of that stock.
That's an awesome idea to actually do it at the merit, during the merit conversation. Um, I would just add to that, Cory, to be aware there was a time when a lot of companies were giving stock options, when we were going through the tech boom, companies were offering, and it didn't pan out for people. But then again, we all know people for whom it panned out really, really well. So that would be my suggestion as well, to consider it. I always hesitate to want to give back money,
Mhm.
especially when you're on the HR side of it. It's like, you don't need to give back money. I wouldn't start there. I would ask for the stocks in addition, but not necessarily feel like you want to give something up that you have actually earned already. So but I appreciate that about doing it because that's what we're there. We're talking about money, we're talking about advancement, we're talking about moving forward. Of course, that would be an ideal time to bring it up. I concur completely.
Yes. Never
Um,
go backwards. We only moving forward. Give me just add more
yeah,
to
never go backwards if you can. That makes perfect sense. The total compensation list that you showed is a really, really great list. What are your thoughts? We had a couple of questions about what are your thoughts on unlimited PTO versus, how do you consider unlimited PTO versus, well, this many vacation days, this many sick days? You know,
um,
do you have a,
I
a thought on that?
I actually like unlimited PTO because a lot of companies know that most people aren't going to really take advantage or abuse that. That's a beautiful thing. I've got friends I'll be hating on because they don't really have to worry about, oh, we're going for 7 days or 6 days on this trip, because it's a real thing, and most mature people aren't going to abuse the situation. So the only time where I think it wouldn't matter is realistically, I don't really need more than 5 or 6 weeks of vacation because I know what I want to do throughout the year in addition to the holidays. So what you do in the back of your mind is, if you
You
feel
work
like, you
it
know
out.
what, I'll sacrifice the unlimited PTO and we can just put a cap on it, no problem, for 6 weeks. However, what I would prefer is, could you give me this sign-on bonus? Can I have some additional blah, blah, blah? And just take one of those other things you can get for compensation.
And one question, your thoughts on the sign-on bonus. Would you go for just an arbitrary number or a percentage of your starting salary?
So when you're trying to figure out initially what you want your new numbers to be, I like to think in percentages, right? Because if I'm going to leave a job off top, you should know, everybody. So I don't give people a number, no matter where you're at in your life. If you're already working, I need you to at least 12% or higher before you consider making that jump, right?
Yeah.
Unless you're coming from a horrible boss or a bad environment, because sometimes it is what it is. You blessed to get the same pay. So if you can get extra 6 or 7%, that's why I use that modest number. That's really good. But
Mhm.
always speak in percentages. And every time you make a leap, you should always say, you know what, I would leave for at least 12%. I'm really happy where I'm at. That goes to 15%. I don't feel like starting all over. So you really gonna have to dangle 25% in some stock bonus for me to start all over again. Cause when we get in the groove, we in the groove. Everybody knows our name. We love, I can do it in my sleep.
I agree. I agree. You mentioned about them asking you what you were making at your prior job. And I love the fact that you had shared that map of different states. One of the things that I want to encourage folks to do also is to look to see if they're in a state or a city where you cannot ask what someone's prior salary was, because you can't restrict what you might want to pay a person right now because of what they used to make at their other job. So I think your advice about doing the research is really, really key. And so look at your city and look at your state to see what salary rules apply, as part of your negotiation process. I wanted to add one other thing about the vacation time. I like unlimited PTO also, but what it does is you don't accumulate it. You go into some companies and it's like, oh yeah, we'll give you 10 vacation days per year, or we're going to give you 20 vacation days. And if you only use 5, then when you leave, they have to give you that money for the ones that you did not use. So that's one of the things, one of the places where companies save money by using unlimited PTO, because they don't have those accruals. It's what works for you. For some people, unlimited PTO is wonderful. You have people who never take any time. So they're not saving anything. So it's good to just really, I think that was a really, really good suggestion, that start asking early about, let me see what the benefits package looks like, so you can factor that into your thing. Let me see. Would you even have to disclose previous salaries? It used to be where you did, and the companies would rely on that. And in some, states and some locales, they can't ask you. I think New York is one of those states where your current salary, they can't base it on what it is that you used to make in a prior job. You have to deal with a person who's right in front of you. So I think I covered everything. Oh, one person asked about, or a couple of people asked about, when you're looking at total compensation, it was actually a suggestion that a couple of people were giving. Have you ever heard of anybody negotiating a minimum increase every year? Like a minimum 3%. I want a minimum 3% increase every year as part of my initial starting offer. I've never seen that, but
I've heard of something like that, but everything can be negotiated, but it's going to be tied to a result. So if you can produce XYZ, put that on paper and say, hey, if I do these things and I grow per quarter at 5% and be consistent with it, can we then January 15th during my merit increase do this? So that's completely fine to ask that, because you're in certain higher level executive roles. That's where that really starts to come into play.
And maybe in terms of bonus structure also, that if you hit this level, then this is potentially what it is that you have the option to make. So all good questions, all great answers. I'm going to encourage you to reach out to Cory, connect with Cory on TikTok and IG, as he said. I do want to encourage any first-time participants also that we give away 4 $25 gift cards for people to use wherever they want. Usually it's Amazon that we do, for people who register on our job board. And our job board, just go to the HBCU Career Center. We have a career insight tool there that's directly connected to the Department of Labor. So that data, that salary data that you're talking about, Cory, coming from the Department of Labor, you can actually get it through our career insights tool at the HBCU Career Center. So jump into the HBCU Career Center, sign up on our job board, and we randomly select 4 people from this session and, give some gift cards away.
That's cool.
That's not for Cory. Increasing, let me see what people are saying. A company where work from home is on the offer. Oh, this one person, yes, the occupational handbook is a good source. That's the Department of Labor. Yes. This person in our time, we're talking about remote work as something to be negotiated. This person wants to know if you've ever heard anybody negotiating on-site work.
So somebody that's working from home but negotiating to work on site.
Or where the offer is for you to work remotely, but you are thinking that it could be a benefit for the company if you come in, therefore you want to add that as part of your what you might get paid more for if you choose to go on site.
You can certainly put that out there, but I would ask the question, if I was willing to come on site, would that be of value to you and the company?
Ah,
And
great way.
because you gotta it's all matters if they care about that, right? Because
Correct.
some
Correct.
small companies, they're on remote, so they have to rent these places out to handle their small team. So they typically pay more for that. And bringing you on board means an extra cubicle, which means extra square footage that they have to pay a lease or an additional rent for. But if you're there and you can participate more in meetings and collaborate and you can take on leadership roles, I could definitely see how that could also be of value to the company too. But you need to
And
see.
the employee might see that as a value add for them to be in the office in someone's space, in their space, and that could help move you forward in your career. There are some stories out there about people get overlooked who work remote, but you're absolutely correct. Ask first if that is potentially a value add for them.
Mhm.
Yeah, because there are those additional costs that you might not be seeing,
Yeah.
if you put that on the table first. So again, thank you, Cory. Thank you. Lots of good questions. And the chat goes along with the video when everybody gets to see it and see how you've answered some of the questions for us. We appreciate it. Have a good Labor Day, everybody. Take care, Cory. Thanks
Appreciate
again.
you for having me. Have a good night, everyone.
Take care. Take care.